So, U.S. President Trump in the Middle East, but not in Israel. To talk more about that, I'm joined tonight by former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Mr. Olmert served as Prime Minister from 2006 to 2009. Mr. Olmert, it's good to have you with us this evening. President Trump was reportedly asked about including Israel in his current Middle East trip, and he reportedly said no. Is Trump sending Israel a message?
I really don't know. I wish I could tell you. The circumstances are quite obvious. Fact is that he's coming to the Middle East. He's going to Saudi, to Qatar, and to the Emirates. He doesn't come to Israel. Maybe he sends a message. Even if he doesn't mean it, it should be interpreted as such.
I know that you have been critical of Prime Minister Netanyahu in the past. Do you blame him for Donald Trump bypassing Israel this week?
Look, first of all, I don't believe Netanyahu. This is well known. You know about it. And I made a lot of clear-cut, explicit statements about it. I think that the President Trump probably is trying to raise a different agenda, which is not quite congruent with the plans of Netanyahu. He doesn't want to have, at this stage, any direct confrontation with the Israeli government. Maybe he hopes that the Israeli government and the Israeli Prime Minister will understand. If he will not, then maybe he will use other means, perhaps somewhat more explicit and more blunt. We all know President Trump. He's not a shy, and when he wants, he can be very blunt and very forthcoming.
Yeah.
So let's wait and see.
Yeah. You say that he's trying to avoid a conflict with the Israeli government. Let's talk about what we've seen from the U.S. president. Trump is pushing for a new nuclear agreement with Iran, and the U.S., we know, has reached an agreement with Yemen that does not include the Houthi attacks against Israel. And Trump's proposal for Gaza is not in sync with Netanyahu's escalation of the war against Hamas. If you look at all of this together, does this damage more than just Netanyahu's public image? I mean, is it much more serious for your country?
Well, first, I want to say I don't think that Trump is particularly anxious to have a conflict with the Israeli government. He doesn't want to be seen as if he's having a direct, upfront, blunt confrontation with the Israeli government, and for the time being, he hopes that the Israeli government will understand what he wants to achieve. I think that with Iran, it was clear from the outset. He said in front of Netanyahu in Washington when they met at the Oval Office that he is not looking for a military confrontation with Iran, which meant quite clearly that he wants to achieve an agreement, and I think that they are moving forward more than is known presently towards such an agreement. And again, he says that he's very much in favor of the Saudis joining the Abraham Accords, which is a signal not only to MBS, but I think also to Netanyahu. The prerequisite for the Saudis joining the Abraham Accord and normalization with Israel is a movement on the Palestinian issue.
Well,
Prime Minister Netanyahu seems not to want to have any movement towards a beginning of negotiations with the Palestinians. And I guess that what President Trump is doing, he says, okay, you will not be part of the normalization. We'll have an agreement with the Saudis. Already today, they announced the arms deal, the biggest arms deals in history, $142 billion.
That's correct.
So I guess that it puts Netanyahu in a certain corner, and let's wait and see what will be the reaction.
I want to stay with Iran for just a second. Arab countries appear to be unsure of what Trump will ask of them this week regarding Iran. I mean, do you think, and tell me if you have information that you can share with us, do you think that Trump will ask them to prepare for war, or will he ask them to prepare for peace with Iran?
Well, you know, I'm not, I'm not a political commentator, so it will be somewhat careless to offer what President Trump is going to suggest to the Arab countries. I think that what he wants to say is, trust me, Trump, that I will protect your interests, but the interest of America and the interest of the Middle East is not a direct confrontation, a military confrontation with Iran. If Iran will agree to have a tight supervision of the nuclear programs, and the agreement will make it very explicit and very clear, then I think that from the point of view of the Americans and President Trump, he thinks that this is a fair and responsible agreement that will also take care of the interests of both Israel and the Arab countries.
Well, you know that
It remains to be seen what will be the nature of the specifics of this agreement.
But we do know, Mr. Prime Minister, that against Israeli objections, President Trump is sticking to diplomacy in his efforts with Iran. Does that mean that Israel now has very little leverage left when it comes to getting its agenda pushed forward when it comes to Iran?
I think that we had a limited space in the first place. We just didn't understand it. I mean, Prime Minister Netanyahu didn't understand it, regrettably. And his attempts to force a direct confrontation between America and Iran failed with President Obama and failed with President Biden. And it seems to fail now with President Trump. Look, the question is this. Trump said in the most explicit manner in all of his public statements that Iran will never have a nuclear power. If he will reach an agreement that guarantees that Iran will not have a nuclear power and it will be supervised by the United States and the international community and the United Nations, then an agreement of this nature is definitely preferable to a military confrontation. Yeah. And this is something that the Israeli government will have to absorb.
Well, do you believe Israel should act independently against Iran's nuclear program if the U.S. pursues a new deal that is, in your view, insufficient?
I will repeat what I kept saying over the last few years in the debate that was going on in the state of Israel. Israel can cause a dramatic strategic damage to Iran in many different ways. We don't have a practical option of destroying the nuclear program of Iran. That can be done by the United States if the United States will choose to do it. And therefore, I think that an agreement that America will reach will block any serious options, even considering an Israeli attack. Israel can't attack Iran in such a way without the participation of the United States. And if the United States is going to have an agreement, then this option is null and void.
Okay. Let me ask you a little bit about the Palestinians and Gaza. Netanyahu has set a May 15th deadline for a ceasefire to be agreed to with Hamas. Now, if not, we know that the Israeli military plans to move in with even greater force into Gaza. May 15th, that is just 2 days away. Trump will still be in the region on May 15th. Does this hurt or help the chances of a ceasefire, in your opinion?
I can refer you to what the defense and military establishment of the State of Israel say time and again publicly, and in a very even provocative manner to the Israeli Prime Minister, we have to stop the war now, completely, in order to bring back the 58 hostages which are still held by Hamas. This fits in with the national interest of the State of Israel. So I think the majority of the Israelis, by the way, all the polls that were conducted over the last couple of weeks, is explicitly said that the majority of Israelis are against expanding the war now in Gaza because it will not lead us any place except possibly, unfortunately, losing the 58 hostages which are still held by Hamas. So the time has come. End the war, bring back all the hostages, and engage in a concerted effort with the international community, with the moderate Arab countries, Jordan with King Abdullah II, and Egypt with President Assisi, and the Emirates and the Saudis as well, in starting a process of deployment of interim security force of Arab moderate countries and Palestinians in Gaza in order to prevent Hamas from recovering, and starting a new administration that will take care of the rehabilitation and rebuilding of Gaza. With the end of the war and the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. This is the strategy which is supported by the majority of the Israelis. I believe that this is what the Americans want, and this is most of the Arab countries want.
Okay.
It depends now whether the Israeli government will try to continue to expand the military confrontation in Gaza, and we don't really think that it will help us achieve our goals.
Okay. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Mr. Olmert, we appreciate your time and your insights tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.